Christ, you were always the guest of Peter and Jairus, of Martha and Mary, Joanna and Susanna. You were always the guest. At the meal table, you looked to the wealthy and pled the case of the poor. You upset polite company, befriended isolated people, welcomed the stranger. In a moment, you will welcome us once more to your table. Prepare us in these moments. Amen. Please be seated. Be not afraid. He says that a lot, doesn't he? Jesus speaks to us and is always like, calm down. It's okay. God speaks to Abraham and Sarah, and before God can say anything, he's got to say, shh, don't be afraid. Because when we're afraid, we can't hear. When we're in those moments of fear and anxiety, we can't see left or right, what's up or down. We're just overwhelmed. And so God, in God's goodness, comes to us and first says, don't be afraid. I got this. I got you. I'm here. As the executive director, as the leader of Crossroads Community Services, which is part of your reach, your arm into this world, your witness into the world that says nobody goes hungry, that there is enough. I see fear. I see fear in the eyes of the parent who's standing as one of 300 people that will likely be in line tomorrow morning. They'll line up around 7:30. We'll serve a hot breakfast starting about 7:45 that people will pick up and take with them. There have been volunteers in the kitchen starting about 5:15 in the morning, chopping vegetables, warming ovens, preparing just like they would prepare for a guest in their home. But today our guests are standing on 51st Street, waiting for something to eat. And there's fear. Well, breakfast is taken care of, but what do we do for lunch? My kids aren't in school anymore, and so I'm trying to figure out how to make sure they've got something to eat. Oh, someone is sick in the house. I hope they don't have to go to the doctor. I walk around just in my daily life, in my world, and I feel scared, and there's fear, and there's the political things, and there's what's happening. And I think we hear God say to us, shh, don't be afraid. In the Luke text, it's so funny to me, because right after God says this, don't be afraid, who does he say it to? It says to little flock, which I think is such a beautiful turn of phrase. It feels so innocent, doesn't it? Oh, presh, is how I would say it in my house. But then Jesus says something really interesting to me. Don't be afraid, little one. Now, go sell everything and give to the poor. What? God says, don't be afraid, and now go do this terrifying thing. And I think it's just a little bit different for me, how I understand it. I think God can ask you to sell everything and give to the poor. Go for it. But I think he's inviting us to see the world in a bigger way than we tend to look at things. Because for me, in my world, I can often be confused and think that if I'm going to solve a big problem, what do I need? I need money. I need influence. I need power. And so as the director of Crossroads, I just got to go raise more money, and I got to go build our capacity and our infrastructure and all those things. And while that is a truth, that is not the whole truth. And I think we begin to understand what the whole truth looks like when we hear the Psalms, and then we look at the life of Abraham. As you all were chanting, which, by the way, is one of the most meaningful parts of the service to me, is hearing you all chant the Psalms, so thank you for that. But as they begin to chant and as it reverberates inside of you, you hear the language of like, armies are not going to save you. Don't rely on your strong horses. They're not going to get away. They lose their strength. All these elements of power, all these elements of strength, the psalmist is looking at them and saying, listen, all of that fades away. Don't rely just on that. And so where do we look? Because in the worlds in which I live, like, it's just about getting those material things, that capacity building, right? Well, we follow the road of Abraham, who, being called out from his country, being called out from his place of security and of knowing and being known and into a foreign land, he's told to go. He wanders. I love the image. He slept in a tent. You leave your home, and now you're wandering in a tent. But what does Abraham do? He begins to build a life. He begins to build up his herds. He begins to build people around him. He's at once an enemy and then a friend, and he's trying to navigate this new world. But he has something in mind. It says he could see something. I feel like it's just past the horizon. It says he saw a city that had a foundation, whose architect and whose builder was God himself. Think about it. You're wandering through the desert. You don't know what's going on. You're trying to live in this reality that you're in. And you're moving to something that isn't quite yet, but still is. He was making his way to Jerusalem, but there was none. It was and it wasn't. And I think that's where we are. I think that what God is calling us to is to live both in the realities of this world that we're going to try to live into and make sure that people are taken care of, but we also are driving towards something that isn't yet, but can be. It's interesting. You walk down Park Avenue, you see these huge buildings soaring to the sky. But then you see this one, this other kind of building, this space that for us as people of God, we come in and it's a reminder that all of the stuff around us is real, but it's not the only real thing. This space becomes that image that Abraham had, a place with a foundation, a place whose architect and builder was God himself. And what it's to do is to motivate us, to give us strength for the journey that's ahead. Because out there it's hard, honey. Sorry, I probably shouldn't have said honey, but like it's hard out there, right? Life's hard. And we need these spaces in which we can come in and know that this is not the only thing. That there is a place with a foundation whose builder and architect is God. And that when we leave this place, we go out and we bring it into the world. And we say, oh, this is not the only real. There's something more. And so it's what we proclaim every day at Crossroads. Not just with words, but with our very being, our very existence. We say there is enough for everyone. It is a lie of the devil, and I'll say the devil from here, right? It is a lie that says there's not enough. And so we proclaim the truth that there is enough when volunteers are spending hours cooking just as they would for a guest in their own home. And you are a part of that. You, as St. Bart's, have been a part of this long tradition stretching generations of this parish that have looked out and said, no, you may not be able to see it yet, but I see it. There's a world out there that we can create together. And so with Abraham and Sarah, we journey through our deserts. We get scared. We begin to see the limitations of our own abilities, of what we can do, what we think we can do. And then we hear the words of Jesus. Don't be afraid, little flock. Come. Let me show you. And so as we prepare to come to this table, where Christ will invite us once again to break bread and to drink wine and to fellowship with one another, hear him inviting you back out into the desert spaces of our world to proclaim, y'all, there's a city that has a foundation, whose architect and builder is God. Amen.